Welcome to the Combat Collective.
Hello, everybody, and I'm sorry it's coming out so close to the next episode. Welcome to another Robot Combat Tonight episode. What is this now? 16 here at the Combat Collective. Bring everything you want to know from the world of robot combat, from the heavyweight class to the fleaweight class, from BattleBots to the live circuit. And I do want to say, ahead of this episode, before anything else, I do apologize that heavyweight event rundowns are not coming out as soon as I would have liked. I have the script pretty much written down for Robots Live Crawley. I'm probably going to record it tomorrow. As pertaining to the day I'm recording this one, we also have, and then of course there's Battle of Robots and Extreme Robots. Those events have had an event happen last month, and we already got another event coming this following weekend as I'm recording this video on deck. So I'm going to have to find a way to congest those two events together in some sort of way. We'll have to see how that goes. It's just been such an absolute whirlwind with BattleBots Champions going down, having to pop out these Robot Combat Tonights by the week. Takes up a lot of time because you have to write the whole script, rewatch the episode, all of that, what have you. But that's not what you're here to listen to. We're here to talk about BattleBots Champions Episode 2. In fact, if you're a fan of heavyweight robot combat, this is a great episode for you because we're talking about 5 Proving Grounds weekends here. We're doing a big-time Proving Grounds catch-up, talking about 11 different robots. We're talking about BattleBots Champions Episode 2, probably the most stacked bracket we've ever seen for a Golden Bolt bracket, a qualifying bracket for the Golden Bolt tournament, and much more. We're going to be talking about the TCC overall rankings. We have 2 new robots in the rankings and 1 robot which has shot up quite a bit since we last did a rankings update, and much, much more on this episode. So yes, welcome to Robot Combat Tonight. If you are still waiting around for Robots Live Battle of Robots, Robo Rights, or Extreme Robots rundowns, they will be coming. Please just give me some time. It's been a wild month from Halloween get-togethers, baseball playoff get-togethers, BattleBots Champions. So many live events happening right now. It's not a bad thing. It's certainly a good thing, but I hate falling behind trying to cover info when it's fresh in everybody's minds. But I digress. Everything will still be coming along. And let's not waste too much time because we got a ton to talk about here. The Combat Collective, as always, is proudly presented to you all by our friends at robotsruinmylife.com, a proud sponsor of the Combat Collective. They are the merchandise provider for numerous East Coast robot combat teams in BattleBots and NHRL. All the BattleBots teams that we've talked about so many times before already, such as Star Child, such as Best Designed Award winner Ripperoni, such as our recent star of the show, Shredded Bro. And then, of course, NHRL. You want to find some stuff to hype yourself up for the upcoming NHRL finals in November. They have Omega Team merchandise there. They have Team Shredded merchandise there. They have NHRL merchandise there. They even have some of the more fun robots like Milk Tank. You can get a Milk Tank t-shirt. Get that kind of merchandise there. Numerous things that you can usually only find at the House of Havoc or at NHRL.io. You can also find on robotsruinmylife.com. Various types of poker chips, t-shirts, bomber jackets, prints, stickers. You can even get that Ripperoni pizza box. I always talk about it. I absolutely love that thing. What else do they have here? They also have Robots Ruin My Life lifestyle merchandise. Robots Ruin My Life has a sick logo. Looks great on any t-shirt, jacket, or even tote bag. You can buy all 3 of those at robotsruinmylife.com. So please, please, please check out the link in our description below. Check out the website. Get yourself some swag. Update your robot combat collection. And if you want to do that for free, we have a Gleam.io giveaway in the description below celebrating the kickoff of BattleBots Champions 2023. You can get yourself a Star Child t-shirt, a Star Child poker chip, and a TCC/RRML sticker set, which has the vintage TCC logo in it. It has Star Child logos in it. It has Robots Ruin My Life logos in it. The Pori Loves Bloodsport stickers are in there. All sorts of amazing things. Join that giveaway in the description below. We are trying to get some people in it. We're hyping ourselves up for BattleBots Champions, and it turns out we may have one more giveaway to celebrate the NHRL Finals happening at the end of the year. Please stay tuned for that. But now, we got a lot to talk about here. A lot of robot combat goodness to discuss, so let's jump right into it with our Proving Grounds update. That's right, this episode kicks off with an old favorite here at Robot Combat Tonight. After a fairly lackluster rundown in our episode before last, only needing to cover Orbitron versus Roundhouse, we now have an entire month and change worth to discuss here after a very exciting Proving Ground September. We got 11 robots to talk about, so let's go ahead and get right down to business here. Kicking off this very BNS robotic-centric episode of Robot Combat tonight with the team's newest heavyweight, Fireball. Now, if you caught our NHRL October and Proving Ground September preview, all of you know that TCC has been all over BNS and Brian Boxall's hot new commodity, Fireball, in just about every single weight class. And while the 3-pound version of Fireball has continued to struggle, things have looked very promising for the 250-pound version of this brand new vertical spinner. Fireball, much like Ripperoni, is a vert using the brand new internal flywheel concept that recently has been introduced to the sport, with the main difference here being that Fireball is more of a traditional 4-wheel drive vertical spinner instead, a bit like robots such as Mad Catter or Bite Force. We got to see quite a bit of the process behind 250-pound Fireball's growth through social media and through their primary sponsor Wormwood Gaming's episodes on their vlog. And this robot was taking on twins from Seems Reasonable Robotics, who meanwhile has been a hyped up subject brewing and developing since July of last year. The twins were revealed to us for the first time on those RoboGames 2023 signups, but we wouldn't get true info on these two robots until the Beetleweight version of them, the Twerps, debuted at NHRL earlier this year. Much like the 3-pound version of Fireball, the mini version of the twins also seriously struggled in NHRL, which led to numerous differences between them and their 250-pound counterpart, which was finally revealed to the world in mid-August with 4-wheel drive bodies and surprisingly exposed wheels. These two robots from very experienced teams showed up in Las Vegas during the 9th of September, and despite the narrative some fans have stated online, the twins really held their own early on in this fight, I gotta say. They cornered Fireball, landed some solid strikes to it, and even flipped it over early on into the fight. Fireball, though, bounced back in the battle's second half with a couple of solid strikes to the twins, eventually flipping over Twin A and then annihilating Twin B in the clip I am sure everyone has seen online at this point, shot putting the middleweight right into the arena screws for a hole-in-one right at the 2-minute mark of the fight. This knockout rocked the twins and forced the team to miss out on the Proving Grounds battle on Sunday the 10th. And usually, in a situation like this, we would see Overkill take the reins. This time we got to see something a little bit different, with Fireball taking on the super heavyweight Witch Doctor Showbot, which is usually seen fighting other Showbots such as Hypershock. BattleBots and BNS Robotics, though, decided to seriously put Fireball to the test here, and sadly, things ended up a little bit anticlimactically, with neither robot proving much at all here. Fireball took early control with an opening strike, but then immediately got itself stuck in the arena kill saw slots, much similar to how robots like Lockjaw and Deep Six have in the past. This left Fireball prone and exposed for 3 straight strikes from Witch Doctor, while the lighter robot could do little to nothing to fight back, with the last strike bending Fireball's chassis to the point where it could not drive inverted anymore, leading to a knockout in around a minute. Overall, the new BNS robot could leave this weekend pleased. It entered the TCC rankings with a 1-0 record, and as we've heard recently by Greg Munson, it is currently on the short list for confirmed newcomers as of now. Expect this robot to appear at BattleBots 2024, I'd say. Now, though, on that same September 9th through 10th weekend, while the new robots from veteran teams played, 2 perennial playoff contenders entered the box as a special main event attraction. It was Las Vegas Combat Robotics Jackpot taking on BNS Robotics #1 robot Bloodsport for the first and second time ever. Jackpot entered this fight fresh off its most recent bombastic outing versus Gigabyte a couple of months back, while Bloodsport was making its 2023 debut with a new look, rocking an incredibly sleek all-white livery for the first time ever. Fight number 1 was fairly disappointing. Bloodsport entered using its white bar, long bar, and ran alongside its minibot Bloodsquirt, while Jackpot came into the box with not only their main minibot Ace, but also recent NHRL monthly champion Supreme Ruler. Bloodsport started strong with its opening strike, but also busted its weapon in the process, and this left Bloodsport prone, while Jackpot self-righted and then went on the attack, working alongside Ace to knock out Bloodsport in exactly a minute flat. Fight number 2, though, according to my sources at least, was worth the price of admission alone. Bloodsport really took the reins this time from point A to B, kicking the fight off by destroying Ace and then kicking Jackpot all around the arena for the opening 66 seconds until Jackpot miraculously found a way to right itself with assistance by the Screws. But despite that, still could barely move with the damage that had already been done to its wheels. I mean, shit, the right rear wheel was completely missing from Jackpot at that point. Bloodsport lined up 2 more coup de grace strikes with left Jackpot killed and stranded, ending this fight in 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Notes here though, Jackpot's stream mech has gone up leaps and bounds since we last saw it versus Scorpius, and Bloodsport looked fantastic in both fights. 2 entertaining ones here by these teams. The white Bloodsport looks absolutely fantastic. I look forward to seeing both of these robots in the main season 2024. But now, on to the September 16th to 17th weekend. One between a Proving Grounds veteran and a rookie here with the 2-0 Disarray versus the brand new Antweight turned 250-pounder Taco Tuesday. Now we all remember Disarray. It destroyed Terra Dominator on the first ever Proving Grounds weekend, and since it's held its high spot on our TCC overall rankings, only changes for it here is a brand new Shreemec tail and a mini-bot with a flamethrower named Heatwave. Taco Tuesday, meanwhile, is a very abstract robot built by YouTuber Carter Hurd. We've talked about its aforementioned 1-pounder here before on Robot Combat Tonight, and they've taken everything from the Shreemec shell to the weapon to even its insane T-drive configuration and have brought it all up to the heavyweight scale. Fans love the Taco robot, but its first performance left a little bit to be desired, I gotta say. Within seconds of the opening buzzer, Disarray would snipe one of the belts on Taco Tuesday's weapon, immediately weakening it, but then Taco Tuesday to prove it be a pretty hard robot to attack. Disarray was relentless, but Taco Tuesday's shell was hard, and it managed to last the full 3 minutes, bringing it to a crowd-judged decision where Disarray became a 3-0 robot. That winning streak, though, would die on the 17th, with early offense by both robots, with Taco Tuesday getting knocked back and Disarray losing a fin, but with 26 seconds elapsed, one hefty collision would throw both robots back, with Disarray landing directly on its top. The Shreemec tail ended up not being enough to save Disarray here, and this fight would end in a shock, with Taco Tuesday winning via KO in 1 minute and 7 seconds. Taco Tuesday really impressed as a potential alternate for 2024. Very unique drive, very fun theme. This would make for great TV. And I gotta say it here, serious cracks were shown in Disarray's armor. Terra Dominator was an old built machine with some flimsy armor, and Taco Tuesday was the opposite. It was shockingly tanky, albeit not the most mobile robot, and with that, I gotta say, kind of disappointed with Disarray's weekend here. Hopefully it can do better against Jackpot later this month. But there we go, that's all the new robots out of the way. These last 2 weekends, we got 4 robots which have fought in the battle box before, all proving their might to end our Proving Grounds preview for this episode. First things first, after some hype from Switchback last week, we got a little bit more this week from my beloved hometown favorite robot. As for its 2023 debut, Switchback entered the battle box with a brand new set of long forks and a brand new power plant for their weapon. Solid upgrades for a new year, a year which its opponent Swamp Thing had already fought in. Swamp Thing, who we've discussed so many times before on this channel, had its new gut-ripping weapon debut at RoboGames 2023, but had very little opportunity to show it off during its 0-2 outing. Now Rick Russ was back and was supposed to also be present with a brand new robot, a horizontal spinner named Hellfire, but unfortunately it had to pull out. This left us with 2 battles between Swamp Thing and Switchback, and sadly not the most exciting ones, with both robots going 1-on-1 over the weekend. Fight number 1 saw Switchback use the long forks, while Swamp Thing brought out a brand new wedge beak, which Rick Russ hoped would get caught in the arena wall less often. That was such an awful thing to happen during RoboGames. Swamp Thing flipped Switchback over and immediately broke Switchback's new weapon pod, and this allowed Swamp Thing to push Switchback around for most of the fight, still managing to get us stuck a few times in the process, but one strike to Switchback underside would high center it, leaving it prone for a knockout defeat for fight number 1. Fight number 2, though, saw Switchback ditch the long forks, bringing back the short forks, and somehow acquire a little bit of luck here, as after just under half a fight's worth of bumping and bashing, Swamp Thing would abruptly die, leaving both robots a draw the weekend even. Kind of underwhelming for both Switchback and Swamp Thing, I gotta say, but I am happy Switchback was at least able to get its knockout victory back. Still looking good in our rankings. And now for our final showdown, taking place on the weekend of September 30th and October 1st. Two BattleBots veterans and two 2020 playoff robots with Scorpius and Slammo, who was making its third trip to Proving Grounds, but its first with a brand new, fully redesigned body, or so we thought at least. As was shared on the Scorpius Builder vlog, in typical Team Danby fortune, the robot would not arrive to the venue until 4 to 6 hours before Slammo's very first fight of the weekend. Craig Danby and pit crew helper Jason Woods were very anxious about this whole ordeal, and even told the Scorpius team to start preparing for a battle versus Overkill. But fortunately, they were able to get it all figured out, and we would get Craig Danby versus Zach Lytle on the September 29th show, with Jason Woods driving Slammo on the September 1st show due to family commitments for Craig Danby. Slammo, unfortunately, likely due to their delayed prep time, really didn't have much to work with in fight number 1 or 2. No working forks in either fight in terms of lifting power, but they could self-ride at the very least, and they still had a very solid amount of pushing power behind their brand new body. That, though, would not be enough, as Scorpius would win both of these fights by crowd vote just a decision, after Scorpius ripped off a fork and damaged Slammo's mohawk in fight number 1. Then Scorpius would rip off one of Slammo's wheel protectors and their eyeball in fight number 2. These fights are in full on the Team Scorpius YouTube channel, so if you want more details, they will be linked in the description below. Be sure to check them out. Next time we discuss Proving Grounds, we're going to be all over robots such as Jackpot, Warthog, and of course, Conquering Clown. So stay tuned to Robot Combat tonight for our next Proving Grounds update in early to mid-November. Now, though, after a bucket of Proving Grounds talk, let's get to our main course with another episode of BattleBots Champions, our second qualifier this year and easily the most stacked 8-robot tournament we have ever seen from reboot-era BattleBots to this point. Every robot here had a real playoff pedigree and a genuine shot at winning here, and I guess Hijinks was also here too. But hey, let's not waste a second of time and jump directly into fight number 1 because we got an action-packed episode to talk about here. It was TCC Number Hill's impressive kinetic flipper then drew the short straw by challenging eventual champion Sawblaze in the round of 32, which ended up being another disappointing effort which seems reasonable this year. With the fledgling Tantrum already qualified for the Golden Bolt bracket, seems reasonable entered this tournament for hopes of a better year and hopes of a higher chance at a Golden Bolt. If Blip won this tournament, they would be taking up 25% of the Golden Bolt field. That's a pretty good number. On the flip side, though, it's been yet again another incredibly successful year for Brazilian powerhouse Uriah and their army of robots. Two of their machines very recently qualified for the NHRL finals, with their hobbyweight Zupacabra winning the 12-pound class there and at Robocore a few months prior. And that isn't all. The team also showed up at RoboGames this year and tore down the house once again. In fact, their only real moot point to their entire year has been the fact that Black Dragon had its knockout-free streak broken by everyone's favorite robot, Riptide. This Golden Bolt outing would have happened just after their loss to Ribot, so you know that the team was frustrated and they were ready for a deep knockout-free run here in the Golden Bolt brackets. Before we jump into the fights, as always, we got to talk about the modifications both these robots brought into the arena to prepare. Blip ran its traditional 2-fork configuration and Black Dragon did much similar. 2 forks to go along with their usual egg beater weapon. And this was very interesting. Both teams in the pre-fight interview seemed confident and just for the same reasons. Both thought they were going to have the ground game. Both thought they were going to be the aggressor. But only Black Dragon answered the call. Blip took control for about 30 seconds early on with a weak flip and a pin, but upon the two robots resetting, we saw that signature aggressive Brazilian driving with a combo of strikes from Black Dragon, which the durable flipper ate, sure, but things were already hot under the collar, literally, with Blip engulfing in the flames less than a minute into the battle after this wallop of strikes. Blip still had a little bit of dog in it though, sacrificing its flipper and fork for 2 more weak flips on Black Dragon. The Dragon, though, was completely unfazed. A handful of ramming impacts towards Blip would eventually kill it off, and Black Dragon would pick up a very rare KO here in 2 minutes and 24 seconds. A clean advancement for Black Dragon, moving itself into the semifinals with ease, while Blip, despite going 3 for 3 on flips, was sadly back to the drawing board. Aaron Hill made a bit of an eyebrow-raising comment in the post-fight interview saying, if Blip returns, so maybe Tantrum still has a little bit of a lease on life after all. What we do know here is that a brand new second version of Blip is currently in the works, according to some words from Aaron Hill on the Out of the Arena Discord server. I'm very interested to see what the second rendition of this robot will have to offer. Maybe a bit more of a narrow, longer, less steep flipper. I feel like that could help big time. Only time will tell though with Blip. I trust seems reasonable to provide something pretty solid. But now on to Mad Catter number 13 versus Bloodsport number 82. And I told y'all we were going to have more BNS robotics for you in this episode, and here we are. But hold tight, because given this fight, we're in for a quick trip. BNS Robotics may be in a hot position these days with Fireball and Bloodsport both looking primed for a 2024 position, but things were not so peachy for when the Golden Bolt tournament opened its doors. Last time we saw Bloodsport in this taping session was during its electric round of 32 battle versus Lockjaw, a fight which I'm sure all of you remember was dominated by Bloodsport, controlling 80% of the fight with vicious strikes, but what matters most is your last hit, and it was one which threw Bloodsport up and over for a shot comeback KO for Lockjaw. And with a result like that, you know that had to have been frustrating for Justin Marple. So BNS was most definitely looking for one impressive final hurrah entering this loaded qualifier tournament. Issue is, they had to get past the recently crowned Founders Award winner, Martin Mason, alongside one of the best drivers in the world, Calvin Eba, with the two signature heavyweights, Mad Catter. This world travel gritty kitty had taken Robot Combat by storm this year, making the top 16 for the first time in its 4 years at BattleBots last season, dispatching the red-hot Claw Viper to advance. But perhaps the biggest claim to fame Mad Catter can make here would be its recent RoboGames 250-pound silver medal. Mad Catter outlasted big names like Original Sin, Malice, and even Lucky to reach the final two, where future legend Manta, a robot which actually got mentioned during this episode, managed to pick up a brutal knockout win to keep the kitty in second. All bets were off here though in the slugfest. Lose here and you're packing up for a trip back to California, so you knew Calvin Eba was here to win. Modifications for this fight. Mad Catter brought out their heaviest vertical spinner, the Jolt Vert, alongside a beta-style anti-horizontal spinner configuration, which apparently Ray Billings had a hand in helping design. Bloodsport, meanwhile, armed itself with 4 forks and their 72-pound classic Crossblade, which provided the most reach out of all their weapons. The real modification here, though, for Bloodsport was those adorable cat ears and whiskers. I absolutely love that. And, I love it when fights are short. It makes my job so much easier. Gotta say, too, Chris, Kenny, and even Martin Mason called this one perfectly. Chris and Kenny discussed before the fight that Bloodsport is a robot which could lose in 30 seconds as easily as it could win in 30 seconds or even provide a 3-minute classic. Martin, meanwhile, discussed Calvin Eba's superior drive and how it's developed over the offseason, and that their anti-horizontal spinner armor would dispatch Bloodsports in literal seconds, literally putting it on, as Martin Mason put it, life support. And that's exactly what happened. Bloodsport ended up starting and ending its BattleBots 2022 campaign in the exact same way, with Bloodsport flipped over, billowing out smoke and flames in all the wrong spots for a sub-minute KO. Both of the robots went wide to spin up, and then bang! One big hit, and Bloodsport went flying into the driver's side corner while Mad Catter stayed down pat, and before 20 seconds had elapsed, smoke was coming out of Bloodsport, and this one was over in just 37 seconds, quickest fight of the entire episode. Bloodsport was certainly on life support. Mad Catter had called its shot and was moving on while Bloodsport was moving out. It was a year of redesigning for Bloodsport in 2022. Some of its changes worked wonderfully, while some literally went out in a blaze of glory. We know there's improvement down the line, though, with the sleek new white Bloodsport impressing at Proving Grounds. It'll be interesting to see where this team ends up come the middle and end of the 2024 World Championship season with both of their robots. Now, Malice number 14 versus Hijinks number 131, bit of a difference there. A battle of horizontal spinners, both with multiple playoff berths in the past, but only one which has found recent success in Malice. After a couple seasons worth of awful weapon reliability, Bunny and David of Team Malice have finally truly dialed in their horizontal drum, much thanks to the help of the legendary Ray Billings. We've seen Malice kick so much ass at the Structathon that it's now being used less often. We've seen Malice take the bronze medal at RoboGames 2023 Heavyweight Championship, and this year we saw Malice finally break into the BattleBots Sweet 16 after an impressive win over my hometown favorite Switchback in the round 32. There still seemed to be a ceiling though for Malice entering this tournament, and you know the team was really wanting to see how hard they can push that ceiling upwards in this bracket. Hijinks, meanwhile, I do apologize. I gave them a little bit of a bad rap earlier. Hijinks still, in the end of the day, is a two-time playoff contender with burps in 2020 and 2021. But like a roller coaster, Jen Herkenroder's beloved Wide Wing Owl has plummeted hard in 2022. Things started off well enough with a victory over Big Dill, but after that it was 3 straight losses by knockout to Shredderator, Ripperoni, and Switchback, with each fight getting shorter and more dominant than the next. Hijinks now has its back to the wall, and with only 50 slots open every year now and a field that only gets more and more loaded, especially with proving grounds nowadays, Hijinks, in my opinion, found itself in a similar position to Shreddit Bro and Ominous last week. This was a must win for the Big Bird. Now let's talk modifications. We got some interesting ones here. Malice ditched the bunny ear forks and put all their weight into their big red weapon and a steel plate which was designed to literally protect Malice's nuts. Hijinks, meanwhile, brought out a newly enforced anti-horizontal spinner tail along with their longest weapon for optimal reach. Both these robots were trying to reach, hit hard, and hit fast. And needless to say, just like a third baseman with a nice cup job, Malice's nuts came out of this fight perfectly fine despite a pretty good fight given to it by Hijinks driver Orion Beach. Hijinks' spin-up speed did seem to be the best we've ever seen it for quite some time, but David Lau drove Malice like an absolutely relentless bruiser this whole fight, getting way up in Hijinks' face for as long as it could and as often as it could, ripping away at not only the face and tail, but most importantly, the very thin, very exposed wheels of Hijinks. Within 30 seconds, Hijinks was missing both of its wheel hubcaps and quite frankly 40% of both the wheels on top of that, but it still fought back with one really solid strike, one of the best it's had all year, which temporarily kept Malice at bay, but it was not enough. Minute number 2 of the fight saw Malice rip off Hijinks' face, then force Hijinks to literally high center itself on its own weapon after shredding its wheels down to being almost absolutely nothing. Malice advanced here with a knockout in 1 minute and 39 seconds, leaving the bird stuck on its wings. Very interesting. Hijinks tried their best here, but really ran into a matchup where they were outmatched in every single way. A wide, gangly horizontal spinner taking on one of the most compact horizontal spinners in the entire field, and such a unique body left many open spots for Malice to strike, from the sides to the blade to the wheels. All of it was hit. I won't say will be the last time we ever see Hijinks inside of a battle box, but some serious modifications and maybe a trip to proving grounds could help Hijinks bring itself a lot closer to another chance in the field of 50. They might need it after a performance like that, I don't know. But now on to the juicy one here, Fusion and Whiplash. Our last battle in round 1 of this stacked bracket set us up for a showdown loaded with history. A battle between two teams which have been a centerpiece of the sport since the very early 2000s. Both Fast Electric Robots and Team Waiachi were all over the early era of televised robot combat. Son of Waiachi was a focal point of the 220-pound and 350-pound class at BattleBots' Comedy Central era, even winning the 3.0 heavyweight championship in one of the greatest fights of all time. And while all that was going down, the 120-pound DevBot built by Jeff Vasquez was tearing it up in Robotica, a heavyweight tournament, fighting robots double its weight like Killer Gorilla and Zero to reach the Final Four. These two teams then continued to carry on after the Comedy Central era with their legacies, fighting with robots like Sabretooth appearing at RoboGames and Warrior appearing at RFL, and then finally, in 2016, these two teams would meet for the first time ever in what ended up being a long saga between the two squads at BattleBots. 2016's qualifying round saw Splatter, the father of Whiplash, challenge Warrior Dragon in an underwhelming non-televised battle which Warrior would win, and needless to say, Matthew Vasquez, son of Jeff Vasquez, took that stuff personally. Whiplash burst into the scene a year after Splatter's loss in 2016, and just 3 years later, Whiplash would pick up a massive knockout victory over the one that started it all, Son of Waiachi, in a main event battle on fight card number 5. After this, Team Waiachi's third robot, Hydra, then drew the Whiplash straw in not one but 2 straight fights, with Whiplash dominating the first and Hydra dominating the second earlier this year. This put us in pure rubber match territory. Team Fast Electric Robotics with 2 wins and Team Waiachi with 2 wins, but now only one could advance to fight Malice in a battle between Whiplash, driven by the son of Jeff Vasquez, Matthew Vasquez, and Fusion, driven by the son of Terry Ewert, Reese Ewert, a true generational showdown to decide which old school team was best. Whiplash in this fight showed up like we saw it so many times in 2021, armed with no spinner and its big lifter with an anti-horizontal spinner plow, while Fusion showed up as, well, Fusion. We know Reese Ewert. He will tell us himself he's not a great driver, so it's always up to the weapon on wheels that is Fusion. But that also means we need the robot to not set itself on fire, and that's exactly what it did in record time here. If there's anything for poor BNS Robotics and Bloodsport to celebrate in this bracket, it is that somehow, some way, it was not the quickest robot to set itself ablaze in this tournament. In typical Matthew Vasquez elite driving fashion, this fight opened up with a perfect box rush by Whiplash, reaching the vertical spinning face of Fusion within, and get this, I timed it, exactly 1.5 seconds. This immediately put Reese Ewert on the back foot, with Fusion getting flipped over, and then before the clock could even get off the corner of the screen, with less than 6 seconds elapsed, Fusion was fully emblazed. The horizontal spinner was already dead, and the vertical spinner wasn't looking too hot either. All that was left to do for Matthew Vasquez was a little bit of fantastic driving to prop Fusion up into the corner like a toasty Christmas tree. This one was over in just 50 seconds. And well, at the very least, we got to hear another iconic Reese Ewert interview. For the last year, Reese may have been stuck in a van down by the lake, and for that year-long span, I hope that he has spent all of that working on making Fusion solid for another season. The redneck engineering of use the horizontal spinner as a fan really didn't go as smoothly as pretty much all of us had anticipated, but there have been pictures shared by Team Waiachi of a potential sequel to Fusion in the books. Same tri-bi-horizontal spinner, same vertical spinner, but a dramatically different body, which makes the horizontal spinner on Fusion operate as an undercutter. Very interested to see what ends up being here for the future of Fusion. It could very well just be retired. We know how Team Waiachi is. It's a little bit of a revolving door, and they always have brand new robot ideas. I guess we're just going to have to see what happens. Jumping into the semifinals now, and just like last week's bracket, the semifinals was built around another electric rematch. In the 2021 round of 32, on the top right corner of the bracket, we saw Black Dragon versus Mad Catter, a battle between a former Desperado champion and an underdog turned powerhouse. This fight had much anticipation and it 100% delivered, with the fight going to a split decision after an electric battle that was likely decided thanks to Mad Catter dealing with drive issues near the end of the fight, plus the addition of a bizarre lance attachment which more so got in the way than anything else. There was something else different here though. Much like the Valkyrian Rotator fight, the winner of the two's last exchange, Black Dragon, had a brand new driver, this time fighting Mad Catter with Gabriel Bertozzi. Gabriel, though, had been elite with Black Dragon all year compared to what Lucy Doo did with Valkyrie, as he was a driver very well familiar with that style of robot, so everyone was expecting another close, exciting fight, and yet again, they 100% delivered. Talking about modifications here, Mad Catter had no Joust Lance this time. Gassy Cat was in the arena instead, alongside 2 pontoon wedges on the front, with the small fry vertical spinner replacing Jolt. Black Dragon, meanwhile, entered the box looking just as it did for the prior battle. No modifications here. Hopefully they didn't have to repair much either. But now let's discuss the fight. Mad Catter had the upper hand in the opening minute with a couple of hard slams and sturdy airtime shots to Black Dragon, ripping off one of its front wedgelets fairly quickly, but Black Dragon held its own too, landing a strike to Gassy Cat and managing to keep its weapon alive through the opening barrage of impacts. And then, while the two robots resetted, Mad Catter would bump into the kill saw slots, and this ended up changing the momentum of the fight a little bit, with the stalling allowing Black Dragon to get to Mad Catter's side. Black Dragon then delivered its own barrage of attacks to Mad Catter, who despite some slick getaway driving from Calvin Eba ended up losing his weapon power in the process. The fight's halfway point then saw Mad Catter still in pushing control while Black Dragon laid in all the damage it could to Mad Catter's spinnerless body, ripping shreds and chains off of Mad Catter and even killing Gassy Cat with one hard hit, and this would pretty much be the pace for the remainder of the battle. Raw, relentless aggression by Mad Catter while Black Dragon just kept on ripping off Mad Catter's armor. The fight eventually went the full 3 minutes, and surprisingly, at the very end, Mad Catter's weapon would turn right back on. A huge boost to Mad Catter's final score, but it sadly was not enough. The Crazy Cat would fall on another judge's decision to Black Dragon with a completely different driver. Huge shades of Valkyrie Rotator as the judges go 6-5, 6-5, 6-5. And as close of a unanimous judge's decision you can get. Technically worse than their split decision last time, though I wouldn't say that. I thought this fight was much better than their 2021 meeting, and that's saying something. Credit to Mad Catter and the whole team, though. The team managed to still lead with some very significant hardware in the Founders Giant Bolt, and later on would take home that aforementioned silver medal in 2 different classes at RoboGames. The team is not done, though. Calvin Eba's year is not done, though. Booty Brigade is going to be taken to the arena in just under a month at the 2023 NHRL Finals, so we'll see if the year's trophy case can grow even more for Team Bad Kitty. Hopefully they can, only time will tell. And again, maybe not. People don't really like that loophole rule going on at NHRL, but I digress. Next up is a battle that very well could have happened at Destructathon a half dozen times by now. Another showdown of peer veterans for Whiplash here in a battle with Malice. 2 robots here who pretty much took little to no damage from their prior battle, squaring up for the first time ever, with Whiplash dealing with a little bit of paint scuffage on his wedge, while Malice had a chip taken out of the drumstick from Hijinks' big shot, but outside of that, made it through scot-free for the semifinals battle. Bad news for the bunny, though. Whiplash eats horizontal spinners for breakfast. Whiplash inside the battle box was a combined 9-2 against robots with a horizontal spinner entering this fight, with those 2 sole defeats coming against Tombstone before the anti-horizontal spinner plow was born in 2021. This was 100% Matthew Vasquez's fight to lose on the road to another potential rematch against Black Dragon. But now let's talk modifications. Malice brought back out the Mayhem configuration, which used the lighter drumstick weapon to make weight for those bunny ear fork wedges up front. Whiplash, meanwhile, as we all anticipated, completely unchanged here, brought out the anti-horizontal spinner plow. This battle of 2023 RoboGames veterans started about how you'd expect it to, with Malice violently ricocheting off Whiplash's plow. In just seconds, Matthew Vasquez had taken full control of a rattled Malice, giving it a tour of the driver's side wall, then to the blue square screws, then to the outer corner pulverizer. David Lau driving Malice did hold its own, putting together one solid rally where Malice did fight its way under Whiplash for a barrage of strikes, doing visible damage. But moments like this would be very far and in between, with Whiplash's impeccable control of Malice. Before the fight was over, we'd see Whiplash flip over Malice, deliver a successful gyro lift near the out of the arena corner, and even lodge it into the screws, where Malice would be high-centered in its final resting place, stuck and stranded for a knockout in just over 2 minutes. Very unfortunate for Malice. Last time we're going to see Bunny, Ray Billings, and the rest of the crew this year, but Malice has made so many leaps and bounds of improvement over the last year. The machine is arguably, maybe even unarguably, one of the 5 best horizontal spinners in the sport right now, maybe even one of the 3 best. It just shows you what hard work can do to pay off for a robot like this. It's a shame we never got to see Long Malice, maybe in the future, but the robot we're seeing right now is a well-oiled machine. The wedges are working great. Everything looks fantastic. I look forward to seeing it again next year, where it's probably going to have a genuine ranking. But now, on to another qualifier bracket final, and another rematch for one Black Dragon, challenging a demon which has halted it 2 times over already. Once during the 2020 World Championship semifinals, and once at this point last year in the qualifier bracket final for Champions 1. We saw Whiplash more or less take on and take out Black Dragon with ease each time by judge's decision, with the Brazilian powerhouse yet to really find an answer for this robot, despite feeling like it got just the slightest bit closer during their last meeting in 2021. But now we were looking at 3 straight years of Black Dragon versus Whiplash in incredibly important situations, And now Black Dragon hoped that third time would be the charm. And according to Kenny Florian, Black Dragon was actually somewhat the favorite here. Gabriel Bertozzi once again comes into play here. Those last two Whiplash defeats were with a different driver, and this was a brand new page for the Book of Uriah. One thing though, I gotta say is for certain here, the fight lived up to every inch of hype and billing it received. But before we get to the fight, modifications of course. Black Dragon rolled out what was called a secret weapon for this battle, a never-before-used configuration which featured a weighted front weapon mount alongside of 4 forks. Whiplash, meanwhile, brought out the vertical spinner for the first time this tournament, armed and ready to go alongside their longest set of forks for added reach potential. And man, I gotta say it, this may have been one of the best 5 fights we have seen this entire year, a true showcase of what gourmet robot combat is all about. Kenny Florian's pick looked pretty damn good early on. Solid offense from Black Dragon moved Whiplash around early, but Whiplash's long forks quickly came into play too, bringing fits of control in its favor as well. As the first minute passed, both robots were weapon to weapon, and here Whiplash got the first real big impact of the fight, flipping Black Dragon over and allowing it 3 strikes unanswered before the Brazilian robot could right itself. The fight then went back to a 50-50 showdown from here and going into the final minute, where momentum went back to Black Dragon's side after a crazy rally of its own, landing some hard strikes and slams to Whiplash, flipping it over as well. And after this flurry attack, Black Dragon went into the final 25 seconds with no weapon, while Whiplash went into the final 25 seconds with half of its drive. And this left the judges with an absolute coin flip judges decision. And again, we go 6-5, 6-5, 6-5 unanimously, but this time to Whiplash. It was another frustrating loss for Black Dragon against the ace of fast electric robots, but this is something that Uriah should still leave happy with. Plenty of hardware was taken home this year, with likely more to come in the NHRL finals. So if you ask me, Team Warrior, revel in the fact that you guys are even closer, much closer to defeating the one and only Whiplash. The weighted front did wonders for the robot, the forks held on, and Gabriel Bertozzi is quite frankly the real deal. If these two meet again in 2024, history may finally change for the former Desperado champion. But hey, congrats to beloved TCC supporter Matthew Vasquez and the rest of the Vasquez family, though, with a fantastic showing here for Whiplash. Just like last year, the former finalist defeated Black Dragon via judge's decision in the finals, and with the removal of bounty bosses, no witch doctor to worry about this time, the black and green judo machine stood among the rest of what was easily the most stacked bracket of this entire Champions tournament, and now it has a chance at rematches versus the likes of Endgame and Sawblaze to try and move itself higher in the TCC overall rankings. And speaking of those TCC overall rankings, we finished talking about BattleBots champions, so now finally, after some dramatic shifts in the TCC top 10 this week, we can no longer delay this much needed segment. It's time to take another look at the TCC overall rankings. We've had 3 live events and 2 BattleBots episodes featured as our changes within our rankings here, of more to come in upcoming episodes after an exciting Grantham and Dublin live event in the UK, but more on those later in future episodes and rundowns. Tons of new robots have been added to the TCC overall rankings, from American robots like the Twins, to British robots like Hunterbird 1, to especially Russian robots such as Wayside 23 and Weber. 155 active heavyweights have appeared and competed in the last year, which is really an amazing number compared to where we were this time a decade ago. So who rises above the rest and sits near the bottom? Let's take a peek at the ladder first and then talk about the ever-changing TCC top 10. So yes, first things first, here's our bottom 5. The Saint, despite finally picking up a win this year, still sits at number 155 out of 155 with a 1-15 record. And just in front of it is the Proving Grounds Guinea Pig Overkill at 154, Gabriel at 153, and then at 152 and 151, we have 2 round 1 fallouts from Champions 2 in Kraken and Fusion. At number 151 with a 1-5 record, Fusion is by far the lowest ranked robot, which reached the BattleBots top 32 this year. It's been an impressive year for the best bout machine, but Reese Ewert, man, still got to work on that fire issue. Down near the bottom, we have a few more recent losers. Hijinks sits at 147. Omnis, after being a top 20 robot last year, sits at 145. Our newest cluster bot on the block, Odysseus and Blackflip, sit at 143 after a rough first two events. Recent Extreme Robots champion for about 5 hours, Mega Mouse also had a pretty rough couple of events recently at Robots Live and Extreme Robots. They now sit at 137. Let's start jumping into the top 100 now, though. At exactly number 100, we have the complex but underwhelming Brilliant bot from Battle of Robots, with the now retired GBO nemesis, the crumbled Snakebite, and the fellow Russian robot Murabe, all sitting in the 3 spots ahead of it. The brand new BattleBots built Ripper 7 has had a rough year, but sits at number 84, and this could drastically change as we await full results from Robo Riot in Dublin. And then just ahead of it is Australia's Death Roll at number 81. It's going to be competing next week in BattleBots Champions, so we likely will see it shifting very soon. Then, just in front of Death Roll, 2 new entries to the list, which went 0-1 at Robots Live, right in front of it, with Yoton and the Wicked Hunterbird 1. Hope we get to see those robots once again before the year's over. King Crab retains its spot at the very nice number 69 position on the same week Whiplash rises to the top. More on that robot in a second. And that brings us to the list's halfway points, where we have a whole group of robots sitting at 0 points. Machines such as Pneumo Kraken, Pinch Point, Original Sin, Hypericum, Galactus, and even Hypershock, among others, all sit in this position, and some may not be there come the end of the year for better or worse. Just in front of all those, we have Tanche and Behemoth, who jump into the list red hot with some crazy impressive performances at Robots Live Crawley. Tanche jumped to number 41 after 2 knockout victories in exhibition melees, while Behemoth ended up number 40 after dominating Crawley and finishing second overall at that event. Valkyrie makes a large jump to number 37 after its Wicked tournament run at Champions, while Terratops finally falls away from the borderline of the top 10 with its knockout loss to Rotator, now sitting at number 35. And that sets up us perfectly for some highlights in our top 32. Number 32 is Banshee, who has bounced back big time thanks to BattleBots Proving Grounds. Double Tap, everyone's least favorite high-ranked robot for some reason, sits at number 27 with some hard challenges up ahead versus the likes of Beta next week. Lonely Wolf and Adam, 2 drum bots which went 2-0 at Battle of Robots, sit at 26 and 23 respectively, which shockingly, out of all those 24 robots in Moscow at Battle of Robots, the Shredded Vert Redhorn ended up being the highest ranked of them all at number 18 after being the only robot at that event to muster up 2 knockout victories. Finally, pushing the borders of our top 10, Quantum is falling away from its top 10 position with only 1 fight left in the year for it. Mad Catter and Malice enjoyed a firm spot in the top 10 for all of about 20 minutes before both robots fell in this week's qualifier semifinals, as now the 2 sit at number 14 and 15 respectively, just 1 spot behind our star from last week, Shredded Bro, who jumped from the low 40s to the number 13 position, could be in top 10 after the BattleBots Champions Golden Bolt tournament. Finally though, let's take a look at our TCC top 10. Copperhead and Hydra have fallen out of the upper ranks, now number 11 and number 12. So who's taking their place? Who's in there now? Well, at number 10, as we start pulling up the list here, we have Witch Doctor with 26 overall points. We're probably not going to see it fight anymore this year. Number 9, new robot alerts. Eruption finally breaks into the top 10 after grinding and grinding away at Extreme Robots. This was inevitable. But the real question now is, can this robot reach the glory of number 2 overall like it had last year again? Only time will tell. Number 8, time for another new robot in our TCC 10. It's the star of our show this week, Whiplash. This robot is a true juggernaut of the TCC rankings, having been on the cusp of a triple-digit position early on in the year after such an abysmal start. This robot, though, had scratched and clawed its way to the top and now is number 8 overall. 8 overall after so much up and down moving with 28 points and maybe 3 more fights to go. But now things slow down a little bit from here. Lucky sits at lucky number 7 with 28 points. Minotaur, with a large gap still between it and Lucky, sits at number 6 with 36 points. We then have number 5, Riptide, slowly but surely moving away from our top 5, thankfully. Number 4 is our BattleBots 2022 runner-up, Huge. Still very proud with how they did. And of course, right in front of them, our BattleBots 2022 champion, the robot which beat it, separated by only a championship, Sawblaze. Jameson Go and the great year he's had, shouts to him. Number 2, though, it's exactly who you anticipated. It was only number 4 last time. It's moved up with 2 spots after the recent Extreme Robots event. Zadkiel is now into our top 3 after that impressive 2-win outing, defeating robots like Donald Thump, Virus, and Galactus. And after this weekend's event, it very well could be number 1, as it is only 2 points behind our current number 1, Manta, still sitting at the top of the sport here at the Combat Collective. It got a shout out at BattleBots this week on TV, and despite the fact it's likely done for 2023 and maybe won't get the number 1 ranking after all, we can still expect another insane 2024 from this robot, I reckon, maybe with a giant nut added to it. Only time will tell. But there we go, guys. I am losing my voice big time already after that recording. A lot of robots up, a lot of fights up, a lot of robots down, a lot of fights down here at the Combat Collective. Shout out to all of our Proving Ground winners. You know, machines like Fireball, the Twins, Scorpius, so many other robots, Switchback, Swamp Thing. They all very much impressed during Proving Grounds weekend. We saw the exciting, the powerhouse loaded bracket that we had for Champions Week 2 live up to the hype. All those robots did fantastic. Shouts to Whiplash for becoming champion, defeating Black Dragon for a 3rd straight year in a row. Definitely not something to scoff at, given just how much of a machine, how much of a wagon Team Warrior has been in the past, 2 decades in robot combat. Federal MT, General, Black Dragon, Chupacabra, they're all such dominant machines. I'm impressed that Whiplash has been able to dominate it like they have this year and years past. Super impressive. But that's enough rambling from me. Let's get you guys out of here. This has been another Robot Combat Tonight. You're up to date with everything that's going on in Proving Grounds and BattleBots Champions. Next week, we're going to be talking about the final NHRL qualifier, final bot down, including BattleBots Champions Episode 3, the halfway point through the BattleBots Champions Tournament. Super excited for that. So stay tuned for next week. Hopefully we can get at least one event rundown out before then. Maybe a Battle of Robots preview. We'll have to see how that goes. There's going to be more Robot Combat this weekend with Battle of Robots happening and Extreme Robots happening. Both will be streamed live online. So if you want your fix after BattleBots Champions Episode 3, that's the place to go. But let's get you ahead and get you guys out of here. I'm your host, as always, on the Combat Collective, Sterling Brown, a.k.a. SterlingTXTG on Instagram. You can follow the Combat Collective on Instagram and Facebook in the description below. We make news posts there, stat posts there, info posts there, video posts there. And speaking of video posts, join the Discord server. Sometimes we record Robot Combat Tonight live in the Discord server. And that's the place where all of our video uploads get announced first. So if you really want the exclusive dirt, all the news like that, join the Discord server. We have numerous Robot Combat builders and fans from both the US and UK in the server. We want to make it more of an active ground for people to discuss stuff. It's gotten a little bit more active lately, which I love to see. Can't wait to see more of that in the future. And then finally, you're right here on YouTube, the mothership itself. If you like this video, leave a comment. Give us your thoughts on Proving Grounds and Champions and a little bit of constructive criticism. As you can see, we finally fixed that weird video skipping issue that we had last week. It was so bizarre. I don't know what happened. I didn't mess with any of the settings. I was worried it was my camera and I had to show like $100 into a new one, but thankfully not the case. Videos are going to be smoother, and because of that, I hope I can see you guys subscribe here in the future. Ring the bell icon because we got a lot more TCC uploads coming before the year is over. We are on the road to 700 subscribers. Hopefully we can get there before the end of the year. Momentum's been pretty strong lately, so I'd like to see it. So that's going to do it for us here at the Combat Collective. I'm ready to eat some breakfast. It's 11 a.m. here in Texas, so I'll see you guys later. Thank you all so much for watching another episode of Robot Combat Tonight. Till next time.
This was the Combat Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.